this is Chris Bianchi with Resolute Philanthropy, and I want to talk about meetings today, donor meetings. And this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I spend a lot of time helping clients figure out how to get donor meetings, how to record donor meetings, how to make meeting with donors and talking with donors an actual linchpin of your fundraising strategy and not just a chore that you have to do. But I also realized we don't always define that phrase. I'm very guilty of this. I use a lot of fundraising terminology. I don't always explain it, which is frustrating because fundraising terminology is not the best, right? We say fundraising when we actually mean discovery and cultivation and solicitation and stewardship and annual giving and plan. Like it's a big word that we try to lift a lot of things with. So when I'm talking about a donor meeting, first off, and more confusingly, I'm not talking about just meeting with donors. I'm talking about meeting with potential donors, or with past donors, or with current donors. This could be a meeting with a volunteer. This could be a meeting with a board member. This could be someone who meeting with someone who gave once and hasn't given in a while, or the that word donor, again, carrying a lot of weight. It doesn't need to. So these kind of prospect meetings or these kind of constituent meetings or meetings with your supporters are super important because it is in these meetings where you're actually able to learn something about the donor, the individual. You're able to learn about their philanthropic goals, about their connection with the mission. You're able to actually have a conversation. And this is, I think, one of the most important building blocks of actually building that relationship. Now, all that being said, what do I mean when I say meeting? So, once upon a time, it only meant face to face meetings, right? That was the only thing I was measuring, or I was certainly the only thing I was measured by my bosses. But with the advent of technology and COVID and all that stuff, now this kind of work would count too, right? A Zoom meeting. But I have three kind of guides that I follow, or three kind of definitions, or three ways to figure out if a meeting is really a meeting, right? So the first is it has to be substantial. There has to be some weight to the conversation. An example I would use often with my team is if you went to a fundraising luncheon, or the mayor gave a state of the city address, or you were at a Rotary Club meeting, and you sat next to somebody who was a past, current, or possible future donor to your organization, and maybe you exchanged business cards or just exchanged pleasantries, but you didn't really have a chance to really talk to that person on your left or right. That wouldn't count, in my opinion, as a meeting because you didn't really learn anything about that person. Now, if you were took the next step and had a follow-up conversation and you had lunch or coffee or went for a hike or had a nice chat on the Zoom, even a nice conversation on the phone could count if there was some substance there. You walked away from that conversation having learned something about that individual. And it's important that it's what you learn, not what you say, that makes the meeting the meeting. This isn't an opportunity for you to just say all the things you want to say about your mission. This is really your opportunity to ask and to listen and to learn. So the second criteria I have for judging a meeting is, do you know what to do next? Did that conversation open up a next step for you? Did you walk away thinking or even saying, great, we'll invite you to this next event, or let's have lunch next month with our CEO, or let's go volunteer together, or you walked away thinking, okay, the next time we meet, they wanted to learn about this program, so we're going to ask them to support this program. The details don't matter. What matters is you walked away with a next step. Even if that next step is this person likes our mission, but they told me that their philanthropic priorities are all pointed in this other direction right now. So our next step is to remove this person from my prospect list and keep them on the newsletter mailing list. And I'm going to check in with them in like 6 or 7 months. Even that, all right? It's not just that the meeting is going to lead to a gift. It's you have a next step after the meeting. And the third criteria is what I would call the door knock test, which is, and this is something I would help my team members understand, is if you were coming back from this meeting, would you go to your boss's office, knock on the door, and say, hey, let me interrupt real quick. I want to tell you about this great meeting I just had. If yes, then it's probably a meeting, right? If no, maybe that wasn't a real meeting. So again, use that example from before. Would you come back to your boss and say, hey, boss, guess what? I just sat next to Sally at the Rotary Club meeting. Maybe if Sally was someone you've been trying to get in touch with for years and no one is, maybe. But more likely, you might mention it later. But the real news, the real headline here is when you get that face to face, that direct, that deeper conversation with Sally. So using those three elements is a great way to kind of check yourself. Is this a real meeting, or is this just kind of we bumped into each other in line for coffee? Now, once you have this definition, actually, there's a fourth, right? There's always a fourth. And the fourth thing that makes a donor meeting an official donor meeting. The fourth thing is, did you write it in your CRM? Did you put in a meeting report or meeting notes or an action report, whatever your system calls it? Did you write down who you met with, when you met with them, what you discussed, and what's coming next? Because if you don't do that, the meeting probably didn't happen, right? And that's so hard. For some fundraisers, that's such a big step. But I will say the technology is getting better and better and making it easier and easier to add those notes. I'm a big fan of doing voice memos into the app, into my phone, in the car right after the meeting, and then cleaning it up later. And now with AI, they can probably clean those notes up for you really quick. But the point is, you've got to make that record. You've got to make that record because our work is not just to have these conversations with donors. Our work is to establish this relationship, this continuity of relationships. So the coworker to come, the future you can look at this note and say, oh, that's right. Sally has 3 dogs. Sally really enjoys our food bank program. Sally wants to volunteer but can't until the fall. Like, all those things have to live in the CRM. So when you get all those things together, now you know what a meeting is, and now you can go get your meetings. But if you're not sure how to start, if you've never done a fundraising plan that has meetings kind of at its core, this can be a really scary thing to look down the barrel at, right? You can be really intimidated by the idea of starting meetings, but I'd love to help you because it's not that scary. We can get you there. You can start small, start actionable. Don't set a goal saying, I'm going to meet with 100 people a day. Say, can I meet with one donor this week? Can I meet with one donor every week? You can start small and start with the donors you already have a relationship with. But the most important thing, if you haven't done it already, is to start. Because I guarantee that you're going to see bigger and more creative and more engaged relationships and giving from your donor base if you start to build those relationships, if you start to really make an effort to reach out. Because meetings, knowing our donors, asking those questions, being curious and inviting, this is the seed from which all your major gifts are going to grow. So again, you want to learn more about this, you want some help getting this going, please reach out to me. You can message me under this video or go to my website at resolutephilanthropy.com and set up a meeting, and I would love to talk to you because this is such a great way to get your fundraising where you want it to go. Okay, that's all for today. Have a great one. Keep up the good work. See you next time.